I'll be honest. I was going to avoid any bit of content that involved 9/11. It's such a emotional day with so much hurt, anger, just all sorts of different things. I just didn't want to rechannel those emotions, but I decided to check this out anyway, and therefore here is my review of the documentary 9/11 Inside the President's War Room. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the documentary 9/11 Inside the President's War Room, which is going to be releasing on Apple TV Plus September 1st. And it's kind of crazy to think that 10 days after that gives us the 20th anniversary of the attacks on September 11th. Yeah, time has flown, but still each and every day the same emotions exist. I mean, even when I go to New York and I visit the Ground Zero Memorial, it's just a day none of us will ever forget. And I was in high school when the attacks happened. I just would never forget that day ever in my life. Just a day of confusion, of hurt, of sadness, of disbelief. It just was a lot, and I knew that there was a couple of reasons why I didn't want to watch any 9/11 documentaries. Number one, I'm just not trying to buy into conspiracy theories, and I'm also not trying to buy into politics. And thankfully, this documentary didn't do either. So therefore, I'm going to say that this review also will not have any politics or any type of conspiracy theory sub narratives or any of that sorts in here. Just, it's not here. But in fact, that this documentary, and another thing is that I feel like Apple TV does really good job in their documentaries. So I was like, okay, I want to see what they got with this. They've done really good nature documentaries that I'm, huge fans of. So I was like, let's see what they got with this one. And indeed, this was a fantastic documentary. And the angle with this documentary is that it follows the president. It gives us the perspective of President Bush during this day and his close administration as they, from top to bottom of everything that happened with them in regards to the attack on this historic day. So that was an interesting thing because, to be honest, like I remember as a kid, I only remember when Bush pretty much declared war. I remember him coming on, on the air and making his statement. But what was he doing the entire day? And even when I got older, I was like, okay, well, he was in Florida and he was with the kids. They whispered in his ear like, hey, something's happening. And then they were back to DC. That's what I assumed. Now, watching this documentary, there's absolutely so much more that happened in that day. And one other tidbit I want to add too, just to kind of get perspective of what my day was for 9/11 back in '01. I live in the Washington, D.C. area. I was in high school. My bus actually used to route through Andrews Air Force Base, the base where Air Force One is stored, the base where the president also comes once he gets back into the area before he takes the helicopter over to the White House. So just that alone, considering that the Pentagon's 15 minutes out and whatnot, it was just a day where it was just like so much disbelief. Like, what is happening? Like, this is America. Like, this stuff doesn't happen. Sure, Pearl Harbor, but like, no one would ever dare to do something like that again. And so I had those emotions going into watching anything in regards to this day. And to get perspective of the president and his administration and everything that they went through on that day, from the top of the day when he was in the kids' classroom reading books, to when he first got whispered that something was happening, to him trying to contain his emotion, to him eagerly wanting to get back into Washington, but he wasn't allowed because it wasn't a safe thing for them to do, because they had to lock things down. And quite frankly, DC was not a safe place for him. So, we're seeing the ups and downs of his emotions, from anger to confusion, along with his administration, who's also giving their reactions to the decisions he's making, their reactions to what he's going through, and their own personal reaction. And we're talking about everybody from like Condoleezza Rice. You're talking about his vice president. Everybody. And Bush, I gotta give him his hat. So like, from the face he had in that classroom trying to hold his composure, we see him truly get tested that day, unlike anything else, because he's very angry. He's absolutely angry, and he's doing his best to kind of make sight to what's happening. And we also get the perspective of like how information was being relayed to him and Air Force One. Like, you would think Air Force One was the safest place in the world, and at the time, and also a place that all information is channeling through. And when they were in the air at times, they were just completely in the dark. They didn't know what was going on. And I just never could imagine that there was moments of him sitting on the plane, getting small doses of intel, the silence on the plane because no one knew what to do, where they were going to go next, how they were going to handle it. Dick Cheney, who's, having to communicate with him and obviously keep the two of them separated for safety reasons. It was just a lot. It's a lot of emotion, a lot to kind of process in regards to what he may have been going through and how to make the tough decisions this day. And what's also really interesting about this documentary is that it, by all means, keep you very much, the timeline of things, very detailed, so that you saw how critical 4 minutes could have been in that day. And it's a lot. For it only to be an hour and 30 minutes, it gives you so much. And I mean, even looking at the radar signals was emotional, because you're seeing planes going in one trajectory and then, making these hard turns, and they're going somewhere. And, just like I remember, like, we didn't know, every plane was suspicious. You didn't know what was going to be next, where it was going to be next. It was a lot to kind of metabolize with everything that's happening. Even watching this, you see how even the leaders of the free world, how it was a lot for them. And then, regards to, all the different facts about what actually happened, it was just interesting to get the perspective as to when they were receiving this information, how they were having to respond to it. What did it mean to them? And making critical decisions where some of the things I just really knew nothing about. I really didn't know anything about it. Like, you're going to find out. I don't want to give too much away, but you definitely will find out. And I think one of the one of the really big eye opener things for me, I think, was when they talked about some of the events that happened on Air Force One and how they were trying to protect themselves. And there was like a little running gag that happened on it as well that it makes sense in theory, but like when you kind of hear them talk about it, it's kind of comical. But I mean, that's because you had to protect yourself by any means. Like, you just never knew what was coming, where it was coming from, where would be next, who would be next. I mean, they were even given a threat that there could potentially be a threat on Air Force One. So, the President's Day wasn't just from Florida to DC. He had to make numerous stops, and just seeing how he had to handle this day was a very interesting perspective that I really appreciated with this documentary. And even somebody in his administration, which I didn't know, wife was killed in the Pentagon plane. And like, hearing from him about that day and, just the emotions that he had to go through, and just that reality he had to face was just something. It was definitely emotional for sure. So a lot of this documentary, you're taking a lot of information, but you will channel a lot of emotion, because it's a very sad and tragic day for Americans. And, being able to listen to the president as him and his administration gave their testimonies and reaction throughout this, It was definitely it was a very interesting yet done very well documentary here. So I definitely enjoyed this. But folks, totally check this out. Again, it releases September 1st. This is 9/11 Inside the President's War Room. Jump in the comments. Let me know your thoughts about this. And as always, folks, stay tuned for more reviews very soon. Big old bell.